Morning routines. Typically, I get up in the morning and have some coffee, a little breakfast. I'm one of those people who is a creature of habit, so I'm constantly eating the same things, or the one same thing, which is my eggs and toast, have my cup of coffee, and then I wait just a little bit, read the Bible, and journal some, and then I hit my workouts.
Hey everyone, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. This is Tuesday, April 26th. It's a double Duggar day. We're gonna check in with Jinger and Anna. Now, I have to just do a shout out. I don't know this person, so I'm not affiliated with them. I don't know them personally. I've never really talked to them, so this isn't like a collab. There's just this really insightful blogger that does investigative journalism on different church leaders. And she has been doing pieces on Jinger and Jeremy's pastor, John MacArthur. And a lot of you have had a lot of questions and been critical of some of the things I've said about him. And I just have to say, Julie is putting in black and white a lot of what my concerns have been, and she's doing an incredibly impeccable job of bringing stories to light and investigations to light and situations that are happening at that church that are very problematic for women, for kids, and just how the leadership is handling certain situations and the kinds of people that they're protecting. So I would say, if you have questions about what are Jeremy and Jinger involved in and is it problematic, check out Julie's website. It's julieroys.com. She has multiple articles. If you go under the investigations tab and you click on the Master's Seminary, there's a ton that's been happening lately with John MacArthur, and I think more needs to come out about this. I don't want to step on her toes because she's been doing a phenomenal job covering the situation, but check her out. She also has stuff on Hillsong, Calvary Church, Calvary Chapel, and other seminaries. Jeremy and Jinger are at the Master's Seminary in California, and John MacArthur is dealing with some problems there. And Julie's doing a wonderful job uncovering it. And I would encourage you all to go to her website and check those articles out. Jeremy and Jinger are in California, and Jeremy is, I think he's almost at the end of his master's in seminary program. I think he's doing the doctorate. I don't remember. Either way, Jeremy is going to become a full-fledged pastor, minion of John MacArthur. And the last few weeks, I've been getting messages from people about Jinger. And okay, first of all, I'm just going to put this out there. There's always a lot of speculation about Jinger and her health. Now, this is coming out because in Ginger's book, she spoke about how she went through a period of time in her teenage years where she dealt with eating issues. She didn't ever diagnose herself with an issue. She never said she had one. She never said what she had. She just said she struggled with eating. She talked about how she worked through those issues and sort of where she was at today with that and all of it. Never sought help for it, but we don't know the total scope of what she dealt with. Since she wrote about that in The Hope We Hold, now people are using that as sort of a means to critically analyze everything that she does and how she looks to verify whether or not she has had a relapse or if she is not taking care of herself. And this is the trouble I have with situations like this, is when someone is finally open and honest about something that they've struggled with, when we as people that are monitoring and watching, if we start like critically looking at, like, I hope she's not going through a relapse, I hope she's doing okay, comments that even I have likely made in the past and comments I don't want to make in the future. So what I'm going to say is that people have been reaching out to me like, Katie, Ginger's, I'm worried about her. And I didn't want to make a video about that. But I saw Jinger respond to it today in a way that I thought was really helpful. And so she doesn't directly answer what's going on, but she sort of does. So people have been worried that she's lost weight. Ginger is and always has taken care of herself. She's always been avid at working out. She's always been relatively thin. So that shouldn't surprise anyone. And her having lost weight following a baby also shouldn't surprise anyone. So in a Q&A that she did in her stories, she basically just shared that she's been working out a lot. She has been lifting weights, and she does this on a daily basis. And she even explained how she gets up, she has some coffee, she makes her eggs and toast, she works out, does some stuff on the treadmill, does weights, does some beach body stuff, which she said wasn't sponsored, and Ginger appears to be doing well.
I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about my morning routines. Typically, I get up in the morning and have some coffee, a little breakfast. I'm one of those people who is a creature of habit, so I'm constantly eating the same things, or the one same thing, which is my eggs and toast, have my cup of coffee, and then I wait just a little bit, read the Bible, and journal some, and then I hit my workouts. So recently I have been lifting weights, which is fantastic. I feel so much stronger than I ever have. Some set on, I think it was, so I'll either do the weights. I've been doing the Beachbody Muscle Burns Fat program, and then Muscle Burns Fat Advanced. I did a little bit of that, but I've done that, the 21-day fix. I feel like all of those are super good to build up your strength and endurance. They also do a little bit of cardio in there, which I love. So this is not a sponsored thing either. I just love those programs. So those dumbbells alongside this.
So someone losing weight does not automatically mean that they have relapsed, and I think she's gorgeous. Regardless if she's involved in a church with John MacArthur, regardless of whether or not I like her husband or their beliefs, Ginger is a beautiful woman. She has a beautiful heart, and I'm sure a beautiful soul. And if Ginger says she's okay, you just have to sort of trust that Ginger is okay. And we wouldn't even know if there was, but I don't think speculating on it would even help her if she did. Is that fair? So kudos to Ginger for handling it in a way that was directing it, like was addressing it without addressing it. You know, kind of like I am. I'm addressing it without addressing it. I just don't want to get into the business of speculating on that kind of stuff. I'm trying to stay away from that. I know in the past I might have, but I'm really trying to not do that. Does that make sense? I'm not a licensed professional, and so I just don't think it would be helpful. So Ginger is saying, I'm fine, I'm good, don't worry about me, I'm just working out. So I hope that helps sort of quash your fears about everything that's been going on. Now, something else that's been coming up outside of Ginger and Jeremy is Anna Duggar. So I saw this as I was perusing online. I'm like looking at my news, and this an article pops up, right? And it says, Anna Duggar might not be able to homeschool anymore because of Josh. So I pull up the article, and then the article's referencing a question that was over on Reddit, and then it brings up an article about some homeschoolers' statement about specific laws about homeschooling in Arkansas and what the impacts are if you have an SO in your home. So I thought, well, you know, this is a relevant topic, and it does originally originate at Reddit with the question, and then I saw the article on Showbuzz cheat sheet. So I didn't come up with the topic, but I thought, let's talk about it. So apparently in 2015, when everything came out about Josh Duggar and what happened with his sisters, Coalition for Responsible Home Education put out a statement about what has come out. It was put out on May 30th, 2015, and it was in regards to Josh and what came out about him and what he'd done to his sisters. Now, this is not in reference to him and his own children. This is about what the Duggars did wrong and how the Duggars could have effectively caused more harm to their kids. But the same issues apply today. It's just now with his own children. So on May 30th of 2015, the statement starts by saying this. Over the last 2 weeks, much has been written about the revelations that Josh Duggar, the oldest child of the Duggar family of 19 kids and counting, fame, SA'd 5 young girls, 4 relatives, and 1 family friend. What has received comparatively less attention is the fact that had his crimes been properly reported and investigated before the statute of limitations ran out, his parents could have lost the ability to homeschool while he was in the household. Arkansas is one of 2 states that prohibits homeschooling in households that include registered SOs. So in 2015, the concern wasn't necessarily about what had happened. It was like, this could have been prevented. Someone could have found out sooner had they done what was right, and then it would have put the kids back in the place where mandatory reporters would have been, investigating them. It goes on to say, because homeschooling removes children from the regular contact with mandatory reporters other school-age children receive at school, we support laws that restrict homeschooling when a registered SO resides in the home. Given the relative isolation, homeschooled children are vulnerable to exploitation. They cited situations where, brothers had been charged. They cited parents not doing proper background checks for homeschool tutors and co-op instructors. And they said the homeschooling community needs to take SA seriously and take internal steps to protect homeschooled children from child SA. However, we also need public policies to ensure that protection of safety of children in households with registered SOs. Children in such households should have access to regular contact with mandatory reporters for the sake of their own safety and provide accountability for the offending individual. Homeschooling should not be allowed to endanger children's physical and safety. And finally, they said, as homeschool alumni and board members of CRHE, we stand in solidarity with the victims of the Duggar tragedy and hope that they receive whatever healing and support they need. It is our hope that future victims of SA with homeschooling families will be treated with dignity and respect that they deserve. Couple things. Had the Duggars actually reported Josh back then, before the statute of limitations, because of the laws in the state of Arkansas, they would not have been allowed to homeschool the kids as long as Josh was around. So if Josh was living on the property, they would have had to discontinue homeschooling. Now, mind you, Josh was the ages, I believe, from 12 to 15 when all of this was going on. Had they properly done the right time and actually reported it at the time, all of those girls at the time, which were ranged in age from 5 to 12, I think it started when they were like 10 to 3. So you could have taken Josh out and they could have had to put the kids in public school if they didn't remove Josh from the home. So keeping Josh in the home, even though he wasn't technically registered, he would have had to have been registered had they taken the proper channels and gone through the proper channels and prosecution, which they did not do. But this does change things for the future because Josh, when he's released, will be an SO. So a lot of questions are coming up about, is Josh going to be, like, how long is he going to be in prison? What's the sentence going to be? I don't know. Everyone on this channel knows that I would love him to be put away for 40 years. And we know that's probably not going to happen because he's only likely to be sentenced on one of the counts. And that max is 20 years. And I doubt he'll get the max. So I'm just going to be very conservative here and say it's the worst case scenario and he gets just 10 years. 10 years from now, his youngest child will be 10 years old and his oldest child will be 22. But he'll still have several that are underage that would be going through homeschooling. Upon his release, and if he doesn't divorce Anna, Anna would not be allowed to homeschool in the state of Arkansas with Josh living with her. So in so many ways of stating this, Josh's conviction actually will ruin her plans to homeschool if she stays with him. If released, when he comes home and he's living with them, he will be registered. She won't be able to homeschool, so they'll have to either go someplace else to homeschool or they will have to go to public school or to private school. Now, on Reddit, people were saying, well, they could just go to the big house and be homeschooled there, and maybe they could be. I'm assuming, and this is just my assumption, that upon his release and while he's on probation, he will have a lot of stipulations, and some of that could be regarding his children and contact with his kids and contact in that setting. There could also be ramifications and placements around what's going on in the home. And because he's going to be under a lot more of a microscope then, there's going to be a lot more scrutiny about what's going on inside of that house. So if the youngest child is only 10 years old when he's released, theoretically, they might not be able to homeschool at that point. So Anna, if she chooses to stay with him and they stay in Arkansas, she might have to give up homeschooling. She'll have to do something else based on the laws of today. Now, obviously, laws change all the time and requirements change all the time. Heck, in a few years, they might not even be able to do anything. You know, who knows? But for now, if released in 10 years, if released in Arkansas, if released, and he's still with Anna, she will not be able to homeschool her kids anymore. What do you think about that? I actually don't think it's a bad thing, because I feel like had the Duggars actually had the kids in school or in a setting where there would have been mandatory reporters, so not just homeschooling or and listen, again, not a knock at homeschool moms and dads. I don't care about you. If you're doing things right and your kids are interacting with other kids and they're exposed to mandatory reporters and they have access and they're not isolated the way that the Duggars were, I have no problem with you. The problem with the Duggars is they were very isolated and kept very far away from anyone that was a mandated reporter. So in this case, I like this law, but what do you think about it? Tell me in the comments below. Bye, guys.